next thing I want to talk about are measures of center. So what measures of center are different ways for us to express our data as one statistic. So let me talk about that. So the three most common measurements of center are mean, which is also referred to as average, median, and mode. So the mean is what you most commonly think of for a center of data value, right? It's found by taking the sum of all of our values. By the way, this only really works for numerical data, over the total number of values, and that's going to give you your mean. The median is the middle data value in a sorted data set, and the mode is the most common value or the most commonly occurring value in a data set. So let's practice calculating all three of these so we know what to do when we come across them in the homework. So the median value of a data set separates the lower half, or 50% of the data, from the upper half, or the 50% of the data. So if we have a data set that has n numbers, n being how many numbers are in the data set, be it 6, 7, 15, 104, right? To find the median, the first thing we need to do is arrange the numbers from the numbers in increasing or decreasing order. I always do it in increasing order. Decreasing order just sounds counterintuitive. So that's our first step. The median is going to be the middle number if n is odd. Okay, it's going to be in position n plus 1 divided by 2. We'll go through that. Or it will be the average of the two middle numbers a and b if n is even. So let's take a look. First thing I have is, what's the median of 1, 2, 3, 3, 6? So this has 5 pieces of data. So it's going to be the middle number. I'm sure you can already say, oh, Miss Miller, the middle number is 3. You're right. There's 2 on either side of it. It divides my data set in half. But let's say I had a really big data set, like 105. And I needed to know what that middle value spot was. I couldn't just visualize it like this. Now, because our n is 5, if I take 5 plus 1 divided by 2, it tells me my median value is going to be in the third data spot. 1, 2, 3. There it is. There's our median. Okay, let's take a look at the second data set. I have to find the median of 1, 2, 4, 5, 5, 7. How many pieces of data are in this data set? Well, this data set contains 6 pieces of data. So it's going to be the two middle numbers divided by 2. What are my two middle numbers? 4 and 5. So I have to take the average of those. So I'm going to take 4 plus 5 divided by 2. That's going to give me 4.5. That's going to be our median. And it's okay that it wasn't in our data set originally, because 4.5 divides my data set in half. I have half the numbers over here and half over here. And that's what the job of a median is. All right, so let's go through an example where we can calculate our mean, median, and mode. So 8 grocery stores sell the PR Energy Bar for the following prices, and I have them listed here. I need to find the mean, median, and mode for these prices. So the mean is also the average. So what I need to do, can we see that blue well? Should I change colors? That's better. So the mean is also the average. So what I have to do is I have to take the sum of all values and divide that by the total number of values. So I'm going to take 1.79 plus 1.29 plus 1.29 plus 1.35 plus 1.39 plus 1.49 plus 1.59 plus 109 divided by my total number of values. Well, there are 8 because I'm finding the values from 8 grocery stores. That gives me 11.28 divided by 8. So my mean equals 1.41. This is my mean. You'll see it sometimes represented with the symbol this. This is the Greek letter mu. M-U, mu. But that's our mean. Next, I need to find the median. Well, in order to find the median, I need to arrange my data values in increasing order. So let's go ahead and do that. I've got to find the median. The first thing I need to do is arrange them in order from smallest to largest. So I've got 1.09, 1.29, 1.29, 1.35, 1.39, 1.49, 1.59, and 1.79. Now, I have 8 data values. That means my n is 8. So because it's even, I have to take the average of the middle 2 values. Well, my middle 2 values are going to be right here, 1.35 and 1.39. So my median, which doesn't have a fancy symbol, is 1.35 plus 1.39 divided by 2, so I get 1.37. That's our median value. Last but not least, which is mode. Mode is the data value that occurs the most. So looking at our data list, which of the values occurs the most? Well, this only occurs once, but $1.29 occurs twice. So that's our mode. Now these are all measures of center, but as you can see, they're very different. Okay? So typically the best one for representing a measure of center is going to be the mean. That's the most common. But let's take a look at this table where I compare all of them real quick. So one thing about the mean is it's definitely like the most familiar. It's always there, and it takes every single value into account, but it could be affected by outliers. Outliers are something we're going to talk about in a little bit, but an outlier would be, for example, if we were back at our grocery store, what if one grocery store was charging like $7.29? That's way different than any of these values. That would be considered an outlier. It's a number that's like out there. It's really far from the mean, typically. Really far from the center. But it can be affected because we'd have to add that into our average. The median is really common. There's always a median value. The problem is it doesn't take every piece of data into account. And even though it's not affected by outliers, it's really important to take all pieces of the data into consideration. The mode is probably the least used. I don't even think it's actually mentioned in your text. I mentioned it because it's something I thought you guys should know. It's sometimes used. It doesn't take every value into account, and it's not affected by outliers, but it's most appropriate for categorical data, meaning that's also sometimes called qualitative because it has to do with equality. Meaning what's the most common eye color that occurs? What's the most common class standing that occurs? That's when mode is typically used.